Welcome to RPG Book Club ShortCast, a podcast where we play a little bit of a little video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Ullman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Metal Gear Webbin. I mean, Maddie Grace Webbin.
And today we will be discussing roughly the first third and or half. We haven't decided how much.
First third or so.
First third or so of Metal Gear Solid. Covering up until we defeat Psycho Mantis. But fun fact, I forgot to write notes for this, so it's going to be very loosey-goosey as we go along, but Maddie could describe this entire game in her sleep. So
so I could literally describe this entire game in my sleep, but we traditionally have it where if someone hasn't played the game, they do the notes because they're playing the game for the first time, taking them through it. So Sam is still going to be doing it, but I can chime in. I also played the game, even though not only have I played the game a million times, I've also played the game the most recently because I just played through it on like Tuesday. So very fresh.
Yeah. And but before we do that, on this podcast, we have a top 3 things, and today is Father's Day, so we are going to be doing top 3 and or just name 3 fictional dads of note.
Yeah, I said top 3 as in best, but then I was like, wait, worst 3 is probably more interesting, so let's just say either one. Just here's some guys. Let's all just remember some guys.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, I gotta say, I Googled video game dads to help me refresh my memory, and I ended up on a site called Cultured Vulture, which has a listicle of 20 best and worst fathers in video games. And you'll never guess which half of the list Joel is on.
Is it best?
Yes.
I think Last of Us Part 2 complicates things. I wouldn't put him on either half of the list.
He's I haven't played Last of Us Part 2, but I think he's firmly on the bad side. But anyway, when we were saying best video game dads, I immediately wanted to say Barrett from Final Fantasy VII, but is he that good at dad? He cares a lot. But
I think he's a very good dad. You might say, but he abandons his kid and in order to try and save the world. Well, then call me a bad mom once I have a kid. Being an organizer and having a family is really, really hard. And I think the remake actually addresses that very well. So he gives like a speech. He's like, "Hey, Marlene, I'm sorry I have to go, but there's some bad people and Daddy's got to go stop them." Remember, there's like it's a great scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say yes to Barrett.
Shoutouts to the other Final Fantasy dad of Saz, who doesn't say, "Oh, I have to stop being a dad to go save the world." He has to save the world because he's a dad, and stopping all of the Fal'Cie stuff will help Dodge, and that's what he's all about.
Yeah, he manages to luckily sidestep that conflict.
Yeah,
man. I'm still so mad that they didn't do shit with him in the 2 sequels when he was like the best character.
I'll lead off with the best one. I think this is maybe the worst video game dad I can possibly think of, and I can't say too much. But so in this game we're about to play, there's this guy named Otacon, and he's going to vaguely reference his dad at one point. Like, it's no big deal. He just says, like, one line about his dad. Seems like a relatively neutral concept. We also... Oh, God, I just remembered. We also learned about his dad in Metal Gear Solid 2. I forgot about what we learned about his dad in Metal Gear Solid 2. Anyway, in Metal Gear Solid 5, we learn that his dad is, one of the hugest pieces of shit I can possibly imagine.
He is...
It's fucked up.
And it's what I find is amazing is like the game never like explicitly starts telling you it never there like isn't a sudden twist that he's terrible. Just little things keep mounting up, and at some point you realize, oh my god, and then
he doesn't have like
it's very obvious.
Yeah, and then of course there's that one audio log.
Yes.
In the post game, yeah. But yeah, so one fun thing about the Metal Gear series, as I'll mention again later, is that it's very loosey-goosey with its canon and has no qualms about retconning itself constantly. So, in Metal Gear Solid 1, Otacon does not canonically have a terrible dad because MGS5 wouldn't be made for another 20 years. But if you want to think about it in terms of a quote-unquote canon, holy shit, this guy has the worst, most fucked up dad ever and also was horrendously, like, traumatized as a child by it.
Yeah.
Swinging back around to good dads, we have the best JRPG dad of Pancras from Dragon Quest V.
What a good dad. He just drags his son along with him.
Yeah. One of my favorite dads in video games would have to be Sojiro from Persona 5. I don't believe either of you have beaten Persona 5, but...
I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay, well, man, does that guy have some great character development.
Okay, I don't know that. The dad from Persona 4 is also really great.
Yeah, he's a great character, but I don't think he's a good dad.
No, he's not a great dad, but he's a really deep and wonderful character, too.
He's a great character.
What's the daughter's name?
Nanako?
Nanako, that's right.
But anyway, Sojiro, I would say... he doesn't really know how to be a good dad, but he's doing his darndest.
Yeah. I'll actually say the Persona 4 dad is my second of the three I have to mention. Yeah, doesn't count as best or worst, but fantastic character.
Let's see.
I'm trying to think of an actual good dad.
So we definitely had said fictional dads, but all of us have named video game ones so far. So,
oh yeah, I forgot we changed it to just fictional.
I was trying to stick to video games.
I've already gotten into video game one though. I just thought video games exclusively would be too hard, but apparently it's not. So
yeah, same.
I think I've said two so far. So my third will be Lee from The Walking Dead Season 1. I played some of The Walking Dead Season 2 and thought it sucked ass, and so I never played any more of Telltale's The Walking Dead. But Season 1 I thought was great, and the main character is sort of like accidentally adopts a child and is just a great dad.
My third one is going to be Lloyd's dad from Tales of Symphonia, not the spoilers real dad that you meet halfway through because he's garbage, but the dad that raised him, the dwarf at the beginning, is just, he's a great guy and I love him to death.
I was thinking I'd think of some really interesting deep cut if I thought deeply about it, but I think that most of my favorite games or games that have made an impact on me don't really have much in the way of dad quality. So instead of having any kind of interesting take here, I'm going to mention another one. He does count as a worst dad, but with some asterisks. And that's Jecht from Final Fantasy X. Also, it's nice to reference things that our audience would almost definitely know about since we did a season on it, right? Yeah. Jecht is a terrible dad, but I feel like over the course of the series, you learned that he wasn't as bad as you originally thought. Because he went through this whole growth in character arc.
Unfortunately, he went through this growth in character arc after being separated from his child and thus not being able to father the child anymore.
At the end, it's got a really lovely, it's a really lovely journey that he just goes on of like having to deal with the fact that like it would be easier if his dad just sucked. Because he'd say like, fuck you dad, you suck. But having to deal with the fact that his father is now a beloved figure and a hero and having to deal with that like that dissonance and like, you know, one of those interesting things about any story about redemption is any good story about redemption does need to address the fact that redemption shouldn't come easy, and that in many ways redemption is harder than just like for the people around the person being redeemed, right? Like in a lot of ways it gratifies our human nature to see people get what they deserve, and if they redeem themselves, it can almost be like, wait, but what about my emotional needs to be happy that you're suffering, person that I hate? And it's like, no, you don't get that actually. And FF10's ending, of course, is so powerful because it's like in the final FMV when he dives into the abyss and literally like high fives his dad. It's this really amazing kind of reconciliation, but also like an acknowledgement that he sucked. Like Jack knows that he was a bad dad. It's really deep. I love it. It's a great game and a great father-son relationship.
Before we leave, I have an honorable mention because this character was not allowed to be a dad because of plot shenanigans, but we watch him learn to be the best grandpa, and that is Kaim from
I thought of that
Lost
one
Odyssey.
too, yeah.
Kaim.
Man, he's a great grandpa, which is like a double dad.
Yeah, he wins because he's a double dad. But yeah, so now let's talk about a game with zero parental trauma and talk about Metal Gear Solid.
No dads in this game. All right. So, as we often do, I'm going to give a quick briefer on the series. And don't worry, it will actually be brief. It can be long-winded, but this is actually going to be brief. Metal Gear Solid series. It's long, it's popular, it's famous. I will say a few things, and if you've never played them. One, it has a reputation for being like really, really complicated and confusing. It's really not. I don't get that reputation at all. Every game's got a pretty straightforward story that you can just follow.
I think that comes from Metal Gear Solid 4.
I guess, yeah, but also 4 is like one of the worst ones. And
yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4, just its gimmick is sort of like it's going to be crazy and have lore and shit.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't really matter that much. So that's the first thing: is don't let that intimidate you. I think that reputation is just very weird and like not deserved.
And even more so than like. Kingdom Hearts also is known for being super complicated, but each game is very playable start to finish. But Kingdom Hearts still will be like super playable, but then partway through they'll be like, oh, and also remember that Heartless make a nobody and a blah blah blah, which do a blah 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 and a blah blah blah.
Yeah,
okay, everyone got that.
Yeah,
it doesn't have anything like that. It just feels like an action movie.
Yeah, it doesn't have any of that. So the series was made by person who nowadays is very much a household name in for you who pay attention to video games, Hideo Kojima. The thing is, the series started in the 80s with the game Metal Gear for the MSX2 computer. And don't worry, I'm not going to go into like how they made an NES version, a fake sequel, all that shit. They made Metal Gear 1 for the MSX, kind of Japan only. And that was Kojima's like second game, I think. His first game was something else. I don't remember or care. I mean, I do care. I just don't remember right now. And it kind of invented the idea of a stealth game, and it's a fun game. It's not too hard to play. It's definitely clunky and old school.
It's
but it has
super fun.
Yeah, and it's got a very simplistic plot, right? It's just a dopey little plot. But if you ever wonder why characters in this increasingly serious and realistic war drama that has very meaningful things to say about most like geopolitics and imperialism have stupid fucking names like Big Boss, it's because the first game was a dumb old game from the 80s that was really corny. But that game has never been retconned. Hasn't been rebooted. It is canon. And it's important, which I respect. So then a bit later, he made Metal Gear 2, which, unlike the first one, is not like clunky and weird. It's just fantastic. Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. That game added a gazillion gameplay mechanical features and has a much more complex plot. And that was made in like, when was that made? Like 92 or some shit like that? I don't know, 93 maybe.
1990.
Wow, earlier than I thought.
Yeah, wow.
And at any rate, another thing that's important is that somewhere around there, I forget before or after or whatever, Kojima also made 2 visual novels, Snatcher and Police Knots, both of which are masterpieces. And I think that's actually very important because I realized just now playing the game this week that Metal Gear Solid isn't an action game with too many cutscenes. It's a hybrid of an action game and a visual novel.
Mm-hmm.
That makes way more sense when you realize the guy had just come off police knots, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I just hadn't thought about that before. It's like, oh, no, just settle in and enjoy a visual novel, dude. Like, this is the guy who's made visual novels before. Even like the codec calls, like, that's how visual novels handle their dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Like, a static screen and some text and voice acting. Anyway, it was a revelation I had. Yeah, so the guy's super influenced by movies, obviously. And eventually he makes Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation. Metal Gear Solid, again, makes the bold choice of being a sequel to and directly referencing many events from the previous two games, despite the fact that he knows damn well that most people who played Metal Gear Solid never played Metal Gear 1 and 2. The game was
For one thing, they hadn't been released in English at that point.
Yeah, Metal Gear 1 had a NES port that sucks, but that doesn't matter. Metal Gear 2 is the more important one, and it didn't have an English release. So anyway, the game was an enormous hit. It was phenomenally a huge hit because I really do think it was really the first video game to really be like, what if a video game was a movie? Like, I'm not saying no game had ever done that before, but no game had ever done it the way Metal Gear Solid does it.
Absolutely.
Not just its graphics and its cutscenes and its voice acted directly with camera angles 3D cutscenes, but also just its subject matter, its script, the way it's written, the way it's paced, the way it flows. It just feels like Escape from New York, right? It just feels like an 80s action movie, and it changed video games. When you play The Last of Us, when you play God of War, when you play Uncharted, when you play whatever, even games that are a lot worse than those kind of games, it all goes back to Metal Gear Solid, and I do not think I can exaggerate that.
Even games that aren't made by Sony.
Yeah, exactly.
3 Sony first party.
And 2 of them were just Naughty Dog games.
Yeah.
Well, when I was thinking God of War, I wasn't thinking of the new reboot that's really good. I was thinking of like the original ones that suck, but like I think that they suck for PS2. But still, that all like games being way too much like movies in a way that like sucks, and we wish they would stop. That's because of Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid changed video game. I think it's the most influential game to come out and ever made after Mario. Super Mario Brothers. I think it's on that level. Anyway, the game was huge, became a big series. They made a bunch more. There's actually not that many. Every single canon Metal Gear game is like, there's like 7 or 8. I could count them. I just don't feel like counting them. It's not that many. And eventually they made MGS5, and then Konami blew up, and the series is over. The nice thing about the series is it's done. I'd be shocked if they ever made a another one. So you can feel free to play the series, knowing that you'll get to have a quote unquote great ending. The last game's incredible, but it is funny to call it an ending.
Yes.
It is a complete work of art, so you can feel free to enjoy it. Cool. So now we will get to actually talking about Metal Gear 1 and 2. So, Metal Gear 1. In the game's manual, it actually gives you an overview of the first 2 games, which is good. They should do that. Again, it's actually important. And then in the game's opening menu, there's more detailed overview of the previous 2 games. I am going to explain them, not because of the plot that happens, but more because of the plot that doesn't happen. And I'll get there in a second, because Metal Gear Solid is very funny in how it deals with being a sequel. So, Metal Gear 1. The year is... Fuck, I'm already fucking this up. When did Metal Gear 1 take place?
I can check.
Wait, I've got this.
1995.
Cool. I couldn't remember if it was 95 or if that was Metal Gear 2. So yeah, Metal Gear 1. Oh, one very important thing about Metal Gear Solid, I'm going to say. Metal Gear 1 and 2 were both games made before the collapse of the Soviet Union. But they also both take place after 1991. So it's very funny that they take place accidentally, not on purpose, in an alternate timeline where the Soviet Union didn't collapse in 91 because they were made before that happened, but take place after. How that relates to real life is something the games never really address completely. Because MGS1 is definitely like post-Soviet. I just think it's very strange and interesting.
And it's not like the Soviet Union is irrelevant in the series. It's very relevant later on.
Yeah. So what exactly happened there? It doesn't matter after the first two games, because all the games after the first two were made after the end of the Cold War. But it's very funny. So anyway, the first game, which they call the Outer Heaven Uprising. So in 1995 in South Africa, all of a sudden this tiny little micronation rises up called Outer Heaven, and it's run by some legendary, local like warlord. Basically, is a word that people often use, although it's a very loaded word. And everyone's like, who's going on? And then they find out that they have a weapon of mass destruction. Oh no, they've got WMD. So we're going to call Foxhound, which are like super ultra mega green berets, to go and figure it out, right? So there's the boss of Foxhound, which is again like a U.S. Special Forces, is this guy named Big Boss.
Big Boss.
He's the commander of Foxhound. They send in a guy named Great Fox. Because his code name is Fox, because he's the best. That's the best code name if you're in Foxhound. So he does Operation Intrude in 313. So he intrudes, single-handedly sneaks in to try and see if these guys have WND. And after a few days, he gets captured, and he sends a message that says, Metal Gear, ... And everyone's like, uh-oh. So then Big Boss picks a guy named Solid Snake, who is a new recruit. He's still highly qualified. He's in the top level thing, but he's new, and they send in the rookie. The plot of the game, that's pretty much the entire plot of the game. You sneak in, you do some stealth, you save some guys. There's one or two other characters. There's like a guy who's like, you gotta save my daughter or whatever. Oh yeah, there's a Dr. Madnar, who built Metal Gear. Eventually you find out they do have a thing called Metal Gear. What's Metal Gear? It's to use the phrase they always use, a bipedal nuclear-equipped walking battle tank. It's a corny anime mecha, but not the kind of mecha that's like a big guy, the kind of mecha that's like a weird tank. And its whole deal is that because it can walk, it could like walk into like a deep forest and get near the border of some country. That way it could easily launch a nuke there, right? They never really explained why being able to fire a nuclear missile out of a walking tank instead of, dropping one from a bomb or launching ICBMs from the normal way you would do it is somehow better or more dangerous. But you just take it as a given, right? This thing is somehow really bad. It's way worse than just shooting them out of subs like we do in real life. Anyway, he finds out it's true. He also rescues Gray Fox, who tells him all this. Now, important fact, Snake doesn't know Gray Fox. Gray Fox is just some guy. So Snake and Gray Fox, who are just some guys, continue in to stop Metal Gear. They eventually run into, eventually at the very end, it turns out that the leader of the bad guys is Big Boss. What?
Big Boss.
But that's your commander. We don't understand. How could that be? And then you stop Metal Gear and you blow up Big Boss. You shoot him in the face with a whole bunch of rockets, and then you escape. That's the end. What you find out is that Big Boss intentionally sent in their rookie thinking that Snake would go in, look around, not succeed in finding Metal Gear, and then go back and report to the UN and say, guys, we checked, there's no Metal Gear. And they'd say, all right, well, that settles that. They trained him incorrectly as a joke. And what they didn't expect was, and again, Big Boss, what's Big Boss's relation to Solid Snake? None. He's just some guy. It's just your boss. So,
Big Boss.
So thus concludes the story of Snake, Gray Fox, who's just some guy, and Big Boss, who's just some guy. You'll get why I'm making these jokes later. Next game, Metal Gear 2: Solid Snake, the Zanzibar Land Disturbance. Now it's 1999. It turns out that, we ran out of oil. But luckily, there's this other thing called Oilix. It's like a microbe that makes oil, and some guy named Dr. Keo Marv invented it, and everyone's like, ooh. But then Dr. Keo Marv gets kidnapped by another weird little micronation. This one is in the south, the southern Soviet Union. I think it's probably around like modern day like Kazakhstan, something like that. I forget exactly. It's actually, some fans say it takes place in the exact same place that Metal Gear Solid 3 takes place in, which is interesting. That's not really official though. Anyway, there's all this lore. It doesn't matter. It's a fortress. So they steal Oilix, and they're like, haha, because we own the microbe that can make oil, now we can, rule the world and make our demands, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Notice, I haven't said anything about Metal Gear. So, they send Snake in, and we gotta go rescue Dr. Petrovich, who's the guy who made Oilix. And you meet this cute girl named Natasha. And about 15 minutes after you meet her, you're crossing a bridge, and all of a sudden, in a great scene, a missile shows up and blows up the bridge, and you're like, what? Oh my god, and it kills her. And then the camera pans up, and first you see Metal Gear? We didn't know Metal Gear was in this game, other than the fact that it's called Metal Gear 2. And who's piloting the Metal Gear? That's right, Gray Fox. He's bad now. Gray Fox says, hey, Snake, we're good buddies. I can let you go. Just leave this place at once. So already, they're retconning a little bit where Gray Fox says that he and Snake are friends, even though they definitely aren't friends. He's just some guy you talked to one time in the previous game. Anyway, then you find out that Metal Gear is involved. The rest of the game is you go and you blow up Metal Gear. Cool. Oh, also Dr. Madnar, who made Metal Gear from the previous game, he actually has had a heel turn and made it on purpose this time. He didn't get kidnapped. You confront Big Boss again, and you're like, I blew you up with a bunch of missiles. How come you're alive? And he's like, don't worry about it. We'll answer that question in 18 years when Metal Gear Solid 5 comes out. He just survived because it's a corny action movie, and the villain survived, right? One important thing I will mention is that this game ends with 3 boss fights. The first boss fight is with Metal Gear itself, and then the second boss fight is a one-on-one fist fight with Gray Fox, and then the third boss fight is a fight with Big Boss. And that's cool because that's a pattern the series will repeat. And before you defeat Big Boss, he gives a long monologue, which is an important thing in the series. It becomes very important later, about how he just wanted to make a world for soldiers, and that soldiers are always getting abused by their governments, and that he doesn't even matter who wins the fight, because the person who loses the fight gets to die and be freed from the battlefield, but the loser has to continue fighting, which is just like a hellish life to live. So really, it's all about the glory of battle and not about winning or losing or ideology or anything. It's a weirdly poignant and deep thing to plop at the end of an otherwise pretty goofy game. Yep. So you defeat him and you escape. The end. Also, I will say some support characters. Colonel Campbell is your colonel in this game. And also, you have a friend here named Master Miller in this game, in Metal Gear 2. So those characters are both in this game.
And very much talked about like the audience knows who they are.
Yes.
Exactly. And the final thing I'll say is that Metal Gear Solid is one of those games that you saw a lot of in the 90s, which is it is a sequel but also a stealth remake.
Yes.
Just about every single thing that happens in Metal Gear Solid happened in Metal Gear 2. Like, everything. From boss battles, to level layouts, to scenarios, to puzzles. Kojima was just like, look, no one played this game anyway. I'm just going to completely rip off of myself and make it again. The only difference really is that, and even mechanics. The only difference is that, frankly, Metal Gear Solid is a much simpler game, actually. The levels are smaller and more simplistic. The mechanics are easier and stripped down. Like, it really is like a dummied down version of Metal Gear 2, which is very, very fun. Cool. I don't think that was too long. I think that's about as short as it could have been because also remember, and at the end of this game, Big Boss is still just some guy. I cannot express this enough. Okay, let's go on. We're done.
Awesome. So, so you fire up Metal Gear Solid and you see several options that can give you lore, but this is 1998. We're in skipping cutscene territory.
Sorry, I'm already cutting in. Did you miss something? I think you missed something. I hope you didn't miss this in real life and you just missed it now. Did you know that, you know how we complained in other games, like a lot of the games, about how a game's attract mode, when you first turn it on, is the exact same thing as the opening cutscene, and you just wasted time watching it because you're about to watch it again? This game doesn't do that. So I apologize if either of y'all didn't watch it, because I forgot to warn you. This game's opening, it. Yeah, this game's opening. Time. Yeah, this game has an opening cutscene that happens when you first turn it on before the start screen, and then when you hit Start New Game, the cutscene continues where it left off. First of all, I love it. It's cute. Second of all, I'm telling you so you don't accidentally hit start and miss it. You're welcome.
I probably missed it. What is it?
Okay, so I'll tell you. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't warn you. It's not too complicated. The opening, it opens on a shot of it's under the ocean, an underwater shot, and a large cylindrical metallic tube plows through the water. You find out it's like a little submarine type thing. Basically, Snake is piloting a tiny little like one-man submarine, and then once it gets close to his destination, it opens, it like breaks apart, and then he just swims, and then he swims into like an underground cave, and while that's happening, there's both cuts away to some other people who are sitting in an actual submarine, who are clearly like in like a command center of some kind, talking to Snake. And also, most of the voiceover you hear during this scene is obviously not happening during this scene. It's flashback voiceover, right? And basically, they're saying that there's this archipelago off the coast of Alaska called Shadow Moses Island in the Fox Archipelago, which is very funny, and how it's been taken over by Special Forces Unit Foxhound, and that's Snake's old unit. And he's like, damn. And then they're like, so Sam, you didn't get any of this?
I remember seeing the swim up, but definitely not the stuff about the archipelago and whatnot.
Gotcha. So yeah, actually, give me about one more second, actually.
I may have just seen it like at a GDQ while the runner was getting ready. So
anyway, they're saying that happens, and then they're like, yeah, they captured this base, and they've said that they have the capacity to fire a nuclear weapon, and they're going to do it if we don't give them what their demands are. And you're like, what's the demands? And they're like, it's the remains of Big Boss. And they don't say Big Boss. They always say Big Boss. They always pronounce it Big Boss. It weirds me out.
Boss.
And then they say that there's 6 elite mercenaries who are leading the thing, which is again Snake's old unit. The 6 characters are the beautiful and deadly sniper lady, Sniper Wolf, and then a really big guy who is very culturally insensitive named Vulcan Raven. He's like Inuit, so you know.
They
Vulcan
don't handle
Raven.
it well.
No, they don't. A great character though, TBH. He's great. Then there's a psychic guy named Psycho Mantis. And then there's a guy named Decoy Octopus, who's the master of disguise. He might even be turtly enough for the Turtle Club. Next, there's a guy named Revolver Ocelot, who, in addition to being great at guns, he's also a master of torture and interrogation. And then finally, there's their leader, Liquid Snake. Quote, the man with the same code name as you. And they all just kind of go, I think that's pretty much it. There could be a few more pieces of information. I don't have it in front of me right now, but yeah, they say we have 24 hours to... so he has 3 goals. 1, find out if the terrorists can actually fire a nuke. And then 2 and 3 is rescue some guys First, he's got to rescue the DARPA chief, which DARPA is a real government agency. I don't know what it stands for, but it's like, like a defense agency thing. And then secondly, he has to rescue the president of Arms Tech, which is a fictional, made-up military. It's a what do you call it? An arms company. It's like they make fucking military weapons. It's a military industrial complex type shit. And you're like, why are those guys there? And they're like, don't worry about it. So you got to rescue those two guys, find out if the terrorists can fire a nuke, and if so, stop them. At no point does anyone mention anything called Metal Gear, but the game's called Metal Gear Solid, so you feel like they probably could fire a nuke. Cool. So that's the opening cutscene before you get to the start screen.
Awesome. So yeah, when you get the start screen, you swim into a room that I always forget exists because my number one experience with Metal Gear Solid was the demo on Demo Disc 8 for the PlayStation, which hands down, like in the top 10 of PlayStation games, is Demo Disc 8. And the demo is just the second room, not the first room. So I always forget. Which is stupid because
the first room is the tutorial.
Yeah. But so you Snake swims up and he takes off his diving gear, and you see a dude going up the cargo elevator, and it's Liquid Snake, it says in the script. I did not know at the time, but Snake calls Campbell on his codec, which is Campbell explains is like secret radio that it's okay if we call you in the middle of a firefight because nobody can hear us, but it doesn't then explain that how Snake can talk back, but it doesn't matter.
Or how he can freeze time indefinitely.
It's so weird that they go out of their way to explain one aspect of this.
Yeah, and the funny thing is they do it in subsequent games too, like with the exact same words. It
probably as a joke.
Yeah, it stimulates a small bone to your ear. No one but you will be able to hear it. I'm like, okay, but then Snake has to also say words. It's very funny.
Yeah, it also, I'm just I have the script up to remind me of the jargon and technobabble that they're all going to say, and shows a little bit of the briefing, and the very last thing is like, we gave you some nanomachines that will keep your codec's batteries charged. So they went out of the way to be like, this is how your radio's battery doesn't die, but we're not going to explain how you can talk on it while sneaking around. Gotta love it. So you go and you get tutorialized on how to sneak past people and that your radar sucks. So if you get caught, the alarms will mess up your radar, which is just gameplay stuff that you have to hide to be able to sneak again. Campbell tells you that they sent off two F-16s to fly close to the island so that everybody will be focused on them and not focused on the tiny one-man submarine that you just went in. But as Snake gets up to the top, he sees a Hind D helicopter, which is
first Metal Gear 2 reference and Metal Gear 1 both have big Hind D fights.
It's a
what is a Russian gunship doing here?
Exactly. And so that's our special tool that'll come back later. Campbell tells us that there are only 18 hours left until the deadline. Does not say what that means. It just says that we have to hurry. And then we get introduced to Mei Ling, who Snake hits on. She's our save point. And we get introduced to Naomi, who Snake hits on, who is also there. And
even though this is a spoiler for like 2 episodes from now, I am going to go ahead and tell y'all because it's funnier this way. Snake is canonically asexual.
Yeah, the whole time I was playing this, I was like, I thought Snake was canonically asexual.
He is.
Did I misremember that?
I really this time around have decided that Snake is every bit performing the role of the legendary hero on purpose. Not just the whole hitting on the girls thing, but like for a lot of reasons. I think it actually makes a lot of sense, and I really like it. So I just wanted to put that in there, that later we're going to find out that he's canonically asexual.
I love it. As the asexual member of this podcast who has children and an ex-wife, I can see it. It's fine. This is a very asexual thing to do to just pretend to do sex adjacent things like everyone else because it's expected of you. But yeah, so they give you a little tutorial. You have a radar in the corner. Red dots are bad guys. Green dots are good guys. You can see everyone's field of vision, which is a very cool thing for a radar to be able to do. They, of course, treat it like it's very real. And Snake asks, how is he going to find the DARPA chief? And they say that he also has the GPS dots, so we'll be able to find him when we get there. They tell us there are several different ways to sneak in, but remember that we had to come in basically naked, so we have no weapons, so we need to...
Weapons and equipment are OSP, parentheses, on-site procurement.
There's a lot of those.
This game loves to have... I think it's to make it, gives it an air of sophistication, right? They're like, yeah, this is a sophisticated, like, military thriller, so they're going to use all these acronyms, and then in the subtitles it says in parentheses what the acronym stands for. I love it.
It's so good. And so they tell us the 3 different ways we can go in, give us a little bit of a tutorial how we do it, and you are off and get to do the demo of the game. This first area is a really good like vertical slice of how the game is. There are dudes walking around, and you can see where they're walking around. You can run around things to hide from them. You can crawl under things. There are spotlights and cameras that can
a surveillance camera
that can mark where you are. And if you get caught, you either have to kill everybody or run away. You should run away. Even on easy, the kill everybody route is impossible. Don't do it.
Yeah, they kill you real fast in this game. I had forgotten.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, you leave footprints in the snow, and the guards will go, "Whose footprints are these?" and then follow them. Also, I think they can. I think they can even see your breath. Maybe I was just playing the game bad, but I feel like at one time I was hiding. Like I was not in their eyesight, but like my cold air winter breath was, and that alerted them. I'm not really sure. This area is like more mechanically interesting than anything else in the entire game, and it's the first level.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. This level is an immersive sim, and the rest of the game is a Metroidvania. And
it's really funny how they don't reuse so many of these ideas. At least not all on the same screen.
Yeah, but this definitely lets you play around in this world a lot. And the fact that there are 3 different ways you can win this level is pretty cool. It also doesn't happen again.
Did either of you guys get the whatever item was in that truck?
There's an item in a truck. I didn't get it.
There is, and I beat the level, and then remembered that I didn't get the item in the truck because I've obviously played the game a million times, and couldn't go back for a funny reason I'll explain later. But I was wondering, I thought maybe it was actually the pistol, like the very important first weapon you get in the game. It is?
It's the SOCOM. I just watched it in a...
Oh, well, I did get the SOCOM.
Well, then I guess you get it again later, because I did get a pistol later. Okay, so you just get it a little bit early. That's why I was asking. I couldn't remember if it was something super important or not. No. So you can get a pistol a little bit early if you go into the truck. Got it.
Yeah. I think the SOCOM is, you can get it there in the truck, but you also, like, I think you can get it, but it's one of the only ones that you can get whenever you find ammo for it. Like the first time you find ammo also gives you a gun.
That's how it works. Okay, yeah. See, I was worried it was like, I thought maybe it was infrared goggles, So I was really like, oh shit, do I not get the infrared goggles now?
No, those are in a optional place in the second room,
Gotcha.
or the third room, I guess. But that I didn't find until I was backtracking to find stuff after
Gotcha.
the part we're talking about today.
Yeah.
As Snake goes and he eventually gets through this first level, he gets a call on his codec from Master Miller, who we talked about earlier, and I don't think he says anything important. I didn't even remember.
He just says you can call me for hints.
To quote my girlfriend, who is that voice actor? I feel like I recognize that voice actor. I advised him to not look it up.
So yeah, you make your way through the next room, which is where the reason that we unlocked this like a year ago and we're recording it now is this room for some reason was just kicking my butt and I wasn't able to get through it, and so we're like, and everybody was like, it's fine, we can get to it eventually. And then Maddie left the podcast, and then we had to find a way to we couldn't possibly cover a Metal Gear episode without Maddie, and so I eventually have beaten this room, but it took me a long time. There's nothing special about it. It's just you die really easy in this game, and it's hard. But you eventually make your way through that second room and a couple of other rooms until you get to a jail area. And in the jail area, you can see the green dot for the DARPA chief in one of the cells, but you don't have any key cards, so you can't get in. You have to find another way through the ventilation shaft. As you're going through, you can spy on some dude taking a shit, and you can also spy on some chick doing sit-ups, and then you finally can spy on the DARPA chief sitting in a cell.
I mostly want us to play this game without thinking about lore, because I don't want it to, like, when Metal Gear Solid 1 was made, shit that happened in Metal Gear Solid 3 and all the other prequels didn't exist yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the Game of Thrones. But I am going to say that the guy who is currently taking a shit and has diarrhea goes on to be one of the most important characters in the entire series in Metal Gear Solid 4.
It's very funny.
It's incredible.
Amazing. I like, part of me doesn't believe you, but part of me knows like
it's true.
The shit that's at the end of Metal Gear Solid 2. So like my older brother was obsessed with Metal Gear Solid. He played 1 and 2 in front of me. So like I have vague, I was an 8-year-old that wasn't actually playing memories of the first 2 games. And I remember a lot of stupid shit at the end of Metal Gear Solid 2. So it doesn't surprise me that happens, but that's hilarious. I love it. So yeah, you make it into the DARPA chief's room, and you're like, I'm here to save you. And he's like, oh, well, I have a lot of things to say. And so Snake asks him all the questions. He's like, are they going to launch a nuke? And the DARPA chief is like, it's possible they could do it. This is
he does say that they have a thing, a bipedal nuclear equipped walking battle tank, and when he says that, Snake goes, Metal Gear? And the guy's like, how do you know what the hell a Metal Gear is? I didn't say the phrase Metal Gear, I just said it was a bipedal battle tank. And Snake goes, we've had some run-ins in the past. Which I love.
So the DARPA chief says that the Metal Gear project has grown into a huge joint project between Arms Tech and DARPA. They were going to use the exercise that they're running there on Shadow Moses Island to basically be a final test before they proceed to mass production, which is stupid. But he says that there's been a revolution and that Metal Gear Rex has fallen into the hands of terrorists. As a very seed guy and not a war guy, I think mass producing nuclear weapon mechs is also kind of terrorism. So I don't think it was fine until the terrorist shows up. It's kind of a weird stance to take here.
Yeah. Also, I will say in the manual, the game makes a big deal about the fact that this game takes place very shortly after the SALT treaties, which are real things, which were massive like nuclear disarmament treaties that helped to wind down the Cold War. So it's like all the countries are saying, okay, we're going to get rid of a lot of our nuclear weapons. We're going to demilitarize, and secretly America's government is like, nah, we're going to actually own the world now because we have Metal Gear, and all you guys just disarmed your nukes.
Mm-hmm. So Snake is like, well, isn't it okay? Like nukes, you have to have like 2 passwords, and 2 different people have to be able to put it in to launch a nuke. Like, just don't tell them the passwords. They can't like steal that from you or whatever. And the DARPA chief is like, yeah, I have a password, and Baker, the president of Arms Tech, has a password, but they have Psycho Mantis, and Psycho Mantis can read our minds. And it's funny that you said that Psycho Mantis was a part of Snake's group back in the day, because Snake then says Psycho Mantis, and DARPA chief has to explain who he is.
She was wrong. Sorry. Snake was in Foxhound, but these guys were not there with Snake.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Foxhound is all the guys here are former Foxhound. All like the regular Mook soldiers.
Yeah, so the DARPA chief is like, they'll be able to launch a nuke, but we need to stop it with the card keys, because this is a video game and everything relies on card keys. And so apparently Metal Gear has a safety lock, and you have to put in the card keys to you can put in the card keys to engage a safety so that the passwords don't work anymore. And Snake is like, cool, where are the keys? And the DARPA chief is like, Baker has them. There's 3 of them with 3 different slots, because there are 3 different levels in this game. And he's like, okay, cool, where's Baker? And there's like, somewhere in the second floor basement.
Second floor basement.
He gives you a hint on how to get through the next room, because the walls are a different color, and he gives you an ID card that'll open any level 1 security door, which is hilarious because he's currently locked behind a level 1 security door.
But he's not allowed out. They'll get him if he goes out.
I did not think about that. But his cell has a door too, remember?
Yeah, but I thought this door has a level 1 lock on it.
And it doesn't have any kind of code. It presumably doesn't use a card key.
Okay.
It presumably does uses like normal keys or something. We don't know, because someone else is going to open the door in a second.
Yeah. So the card keys are a gaming abstraction that gets described in universe, which happens a lot in this game. Apparently, they use your body's salts as an antenna to broadcast the RFID chip, so that you don't have to pull it out.
I want to cut in here to explain and also share something very funny. The fact that they over-explain to shit how this stupid key works, it might seem like, why does it matter so much? No. The reason they're explaining it is that in the previous games, you had to go up to a door and then press the action button to use a key. All of this is just to explain to people who may have played Metal Gear 1 and 2 that it works automatically now and you don't have to use the action button. So it actually is mechanically meaningful that you know this information, that it happens automatically. But if you have the previous, there's no need to narrativize it and do so much diegesis for such a minor mechanical difference. But once you know that, I think it's much more funny. Then it's just like, why are they talking about this? Right? It's like, no, they're trying to tell people who play future games that it's different now. In case you might get scared about not knowing how to use the action button.
So as the DARPA chief gives Snake his quest that he's about to go off on, Snake is like, all right, let's get you out of here. And then the chief suddenly changes, and he's like, wait, do you know any other way to disarm the PAL? If you have the card keys or whatever, have you heard anything? What's going on? Is there any other way to bypass the nuclear weapon shit? And Snake is like, sir, this is a Wendy's. I just got here. What do you know? It's like, is the White House going to give in to the terrorist demands? And Snake is like, dude, I don't know. I'm just here to save you. And then the DARPA chief just fucking dies. just like collapses and dies. The woman we saw exercising a second ago, we see her again. Hopefully you spied on her using the tutorial for the first person mode earlier, so it makes any sense whatsoever now that you see her. You see her and she hears what's going on, and then it cuts back to Snake, who checks the chief, and he's like, yeah, he's absolutely dead. So he calls the Campbell and Naomi. And
one important thing I want to mention, before he dies, he also says something about the Pentagon, and he's like, what the hell is the Pentagon thinking? And Snake's like, Pentagon? That has nothing to do with my orders, because literally Snake is working for Foxhound, or Snake is working for the Colonel and reporting to the President, so like, the Pentagon, the chain of command of Pentagon, it hasn't been mentioned at all. So Snake's like, what are you talking about? And then he dies.
Pentagon.
Yeah.
So yeah, Snake calls Naomi and Campbell to say, I didn't save the DARPA chief, and but Colonel, is there something you're hiding from me? And Colonel says no.
Well, not exactly. He says, I don't have enough security to see the whole file for this project. And Snake's like, you're literally in charge. How do you not have access to the complete file? Oh, and here we do say, Campbell says the Secretary of Defense is operational control. I thought they waited till later to reveal that the DoD was involved. Yeah, so turns out here, the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, they're the ones actually in charge of this. We were not told this, but now we know.
Yeah, so Colonel's just like, shut up, get out of here, and go find Baker. And as Snake goes to leave, we hear a struggle, and we run out and we see the woman from the cell, and she's like, "Oh, you killed the chief, you bastard!" And she goes, "Wait, Liquid? No, you're not." And it's funny playing this game. I'm going to give the spoiler because you'll see in a second. Playing this game, I did not like. It treats the fact that Snake and Liquid are almost identical as like a big reveal down the line, but it's in the briefing that we skipped, and so every time that someone's like does a double take and it's like foreshadowing a thing that
no, it's why they look the same. It's a twist later. I think it's supposed to be very important that they look the same. Not that you can tell with the game's graphics.
Yeah.
Also, Snake talks normal and has dark brown hair, and Liquid Snake talks like a British and also like a British homosexual, and also has blonde hair, but whatever.
So what the woman is holding Snake at gunpoint, but she's like shaking really, really bad, and Snake is like, "Oh, this is like you're a rookie. This is the first time you pointed a gun at someone." So he like taunts her and is like, "Can you even shoot me?" And
you haven't even taken the safety off, rookie.
Yeah. It's incredible how many of these lines, not just me, which wouldn't be that weird, but even Bernard is able to quote literally word for word.
Yeah. I was looking at the script for that one, but I do remember him saying, "You haven't taken the safety off."
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the elevator arrives and a bunch of guards rush in, and we have to shoot a bunch of them and survive. And you do that.
Mandy Grace, is it possible to get no kills on this part?
Okay, so the series becomes famous for having a special, like, at the end of every game you get a ranking where they say how good you did. And to go up the series' its themes of nonviolence and pacifism, it's actually better to kill no people, and you get the best ranking for killing 0 people. This game, it is not possible to do a no-kill run. It is possible to do, like, a low kill run. The least number of people you can kill is like 13 or something. I don't know. For this fight, you do have to kill 3 of them, because you might have noticed Meryl is hesitating and can't shoot for the first 3 guys. So those 3 kills are necessary kills. For the rest of them, if you're really good, you can manage to run around in circles and not get hit and do things like occasional punches them while Meryl shoots them. If you're playing this game on a hard skill level, this is one of the hardest parts of the entire game. Actually, it's fucking hard as shit to do no kills here.
So you don't kill them, you just let them die.
Yeah, this fight is written down as the first boss fight of the game in several of the FAQs I was looking at earlier.
Yeah, it counts as a boss for sure. And again, every boss in this game you kill because they didn't invent trank darts yet in the series. So you get a low kill run in this game. You might have missed this, but I already kind of spoiled it. After you kill 3 of the guards, Snake's like, "Don't just stand there, shoot!" And then finally she lets loose and yells and shoots in a cutscene 3 of them. She shoots the bejesus out of them with a submachine gun. I think it's a FAMAS. And then after that point, she helps you fight. So hey, look at that character development. She's now committed murder.
Yeah,
well, I guess it's not murder, but she's now killed a person.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember what happens next.
I'll tell you what was next. So next there's a weird, so she runs off and there's a very conspicuous shot of her butt sashaying very femininely as she runs off. First of all, she's wearing a soldier's uniform. She looks identical to a soldier right now, except that she has Meryl's voice line and that her butt sachets womanly. You might be thinking, wow, that's some really, really overt female gaze, Kojima. That's weird. First of all, yes. But also, this is mechanically important and narratively important.
Yep.
Then you have a weird cut sideways. It's one of the only times in the game, and even maybe the entire series, where the series usually is stuck very, very cleanly in third person limited. Like, that is the point of view of the series. You follow a main character through a story, and you never break away to something else. This scene doesn't do that. It breaks away. And you get a weird scene that might be a flashback or it might be happening now. It's got like a weird color filter on it. So it's hard to really tell, but you the player are thinking, is this a flashback or something? And it's Liquid Snake and an unknown other person. And Liquid Snake is like, "You fool, you've killed him," sending around an unidentified body. And then a second guy is like, "I'm sorry, sir." And then a third guy with a very weird voice says, "His mental shielding was very strong. I could not dive into his mind." Now we'll never get that detonation code. So you're like, that's weird.
Yeah. So then Meryl runs off, and as she does, Snake sees a dude floating in the air with a gas mask on. And he sounds like the third guy from the last scene we were just talking about.
Third guy.
And so Snake calls Naomi on the codec, and he's like, "I just had some sort of hallucination. Is it from the nanomachines that y'all injected me with?" And she's like, "No, like everything's functioning properly. You must have just run into Psycho Mantis, the psychic for Foxhound." And so Snake then has to go and try and find Baker. And I'm trying to think gameplay because we're all looking at the script.
So all that happens next is that you go down to the floor below. One thing I want to say that's funny is this room. You said you go through, quote, a few rooms to get to the next part of the game. This floor we were just on had no enemies on it. There was no like gameplay, capital G. Then you go to the next floor, which is the basement, and there's also no enemies. I thought this is a stealth game, but there is some danger. As you're running through this sort of a grid-like lattice room, you'll run over a tile in the floor, and then the tile will swing down and become a bottomless pit that you can fall in and die. So they equip this second floor basement with traps, which just really seems like an OSHA violation.
And notably, this game's now in its Metroidvania portion, and there are a lot of doors that have 2s and 3s and even a 5 on them, and you only have a card key number 1.
Yeah.
So now
no one ever talked about this, but this game is literally a Metroidvania. It is structured like a Metroid game. You'll be backtracking to get new items for plot reasons or for mechanical reasons. It is a maze. You get new abilities. The only difference really is that the new abilities don't function as keys. The keys function as keys. But yeah, every Metal Gear game, pretty much until MGS3, where they kind of finally stopped bothering with that anymore, is pretty much structured like a Zelda or a Metroidvania game.
Yeah.
But from top down.
Yeah, so you squint at the CRT on your headboard in your bedroom and try to see which walls look different than the others in the PS1 graphics, so that you can set your C4 on them and find your way forward. And you eventually do find President Baker, who is tied to a concrete support beam thing when Snake shows up. Baker, it looks fucked up, but he's still alive. Snake is like, I'm here to here to save you. But as Snake reaches out, he realizes that there's C4 all rigged up against him. From the shadows, out comes Revolver Ocelot,
Serving the most cunt anyone's ever served in a video game from his first line.
Yes. And he tells you that if you touch any of the wires, the C4 will blow up. So we have to do a boss fight where we shoot this man and don't touch the things.
He literally lovingly jerks off the barrel of his gun while talking about how much he loves his gun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's great. Now's a good time to say there are two versions of this game. There is the PS1 version, which I think all of us are playing. I almost switched to Twin Snakes for what I'm about to talk about, but Twin Snakes is kind of just not as good, but it's a lot easier because they made it in the Metal Gear Solid 2 engine. The Metal Gear Solid 2 added first-person shooter moments, and this fight in this version is not super hard, at least on easy that I'm playing it. It's just easy to die, and so you have to be like on your toes for it. But it is trivial when you can see the whole room in first person the whole time, and you can just shoot Ocelot as you go. And this game was not designed to let you see in first person and shoot exactly where you mean to. But yeah, so if you like me died a lot in the second room and you want an easier time, you could switch to Twin Snakes, where every puzzle becomes trivial because you can shoot people.
Revolver Ocelot also says a lot about how much he loves guns. He likes revolvers because reloading is dangerous, and it's a thrill to have to reload because he loves danger. He also talks about how he
during battle.
Exactly. He also says that he loves the feeling of a. I didn't actually get this line, but I'm pretty sure I remember it off the dome. He's like, I love the feeling of sliding a bullet into a well-greased chamber, which is a great line. He says that 6 bullets is more than enough to kill anything that moves. He says, now I'll show you why they call me Revolver. And at that point, he's been twirling his guns for like 5 minutes. He's like, now I'll show you why they call me Revolver. I'm like, no, I get it, dude. It's to the gun. Is it because of the revolver? Because I'm pretty sure it's because of the revolver. I got it, man. I got it. He's great.
The series will go on to do so much with this character, and all of it is great.
Yeah, this character is the glue that holds the entire series together.
Mm-hmm.
He rules.
So after you finish, you kill him mechanically, and you get his health down to 0. He's not dead. He just stops to gloat a little bit, and then he like jumps out to max pain at you. But then some cloaked figure jumps down and slices off Ocelot's arm.
Cloaked, we need to clarify, it doesn't mean he's wearing a cloak, it means he's invisible.
He's sci-fi cloaked, not
he looks like active camouflage in Halo, where you're like a weird glass shimmer that is clearly some kind of guy, but it just looks like a weird transparent shimmer.
Snake is like, who are you? And the figure reveals itself, and it is a fucking robot ninja. And the ninja says, I have no name. And
I am the man with no name. Ray Fox.
We don't know that yet.
We'll know it in 10 minutes.
Yes. I don't remember that happening. But according to the script, the ninja starts convulsing and shit, which I don't remember happening.
Yeah. He basically just sort of like starts freaking out, which he'll do again later. And every time he starts to like, it's almost like he looks like he's like losing control of himself or whatever. And then he kind of freaks out, and then he does like a acrobatic fucking pirouette off the handle and just yeets out of the room.
Mm-hmm. So you go and you finally save Baker, and you get him down off the thing. And Snake is like, "What about your detonation code?" The DARPA chief had his mind read by Mantis. What about you? And Baker's like, "I talked, but I managed to resist for a while because I have surgical implants in my brain, which gives me a psychic insulation, and everyone who knows top secret codes has it." And Snake is like, "Even the DARPA chief?" And Baker's like, of course." Snake is like, but he said Mantis read his mind. Baker's like, "Are you sure you heard him right?" And Snake is like, "Well, then how did they get your code?" And goes, "Well, I never had any training on how to resist torture."
The old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way. And the Baker is on death's door. Baker asks about the DARPA chief. He's like, "Oh, so obviously you saved him first, right?" And Snake is like, "No, he's dead." And then Baker says, "Why? It can't be. You know that's not what you promised, Jim. Now you want to shut me up?" And
it's weird.
It's weird. And so Baker
he also takes his cane and like slams it against Snake's leg, which kind of makes him seem like a crotchety old man, just like, "I can't believe you, Jim!" Like hitting some person. Like, "I'm not, Jim. What are you? Okay, Grandpa, let's get you back to your chair." I find the animation very funny, even though it's a serious scene.
And so Snake's like, "Look, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. The DARPA chief just had a heart attack or something." Baker's like, "A heart attack? Don't be a fool. Those boys are totally insane. They won't hesitate to launch the nuke." And Snake is like, "What do they really want?" Baker says, who knows? Maybe like the arms industry, always looking towards the next good war." And Snake's like, "Well, I'm not going to let these maniacs start a war today." And he asks about the card keys, and Baker says that a female soldier came and got them from him, and there's only one female soldier on the whole island, so we know exactly who it could be on the whole world.
And Baker is like, "I was in contact with her by codec." And Snake was like, "Oh, awesome. What's the frequency?" And Baker's like, "I don't know."
Yeah, it's on the back of the CD case.
Yeah. So at this point, you're like, the back of the CD case. Well, the guy did just literally give me a disc.
He gives you a disc of information about Metal Gear.
So if you're, did we skip that? One of the first things he says to Snake is like, "Hey, here's the disc with all the test data. This is why you're here, right?" And Snake's like, "I literally don't know what this is. Why are you saying that this is the reason why I'm here?" Again, just nothing's adding up, right? Anyway, after they say that Meryl's code is on the back of the CD case, if you're like most people playing this game, you're like, "Oh, it's that disc I got." So you go into your inventory and you're like, "How do I look on the back of it? That's not a thing you can do in this game. There's nothing here. Should I use the action button to try and use it?" No. My girlfriend noticed that one of the rooms you can go in up on the higher floor is like a little office room and or like a computer desk and stuff. And Kali was like, "Ooh, do you have to go into first person mode and like look at the CDs on like the shelf of the office?" And I was like, "That's not it."
No, it's stupid.
Yeah, so on the back of the game's actual CD case, the jewel case that Metal Gear Solid comes in, is like typical back of a game where it's got like ad copy, like, "Be the ultimate soldier and sneak around in this hot new game from Hideo Kojima." And it's got all these screenshots. If they just had the codec number written there, that would have been already funny enough. But in a bizarrely nonsensical bit of fourth wall breaking and weird meta shenanigans, one of the screenshots is a screenshot of Snake talking to Meryl in a later scene in the game. And therefore, because he's talking to her via codec, it has her thing. So to me, that's even funnier. It's like he got it from the future. Like he literally, him already being talking to her in a screenshot is why he's able to know the code to call her. It rules.
It's so much.
Fun fact, this is another callback to Metal Gear 2, by the way. Metal Gear 2 at one point had a part where you needed someone's codec information, and it was in the game's manual. And the reason why, it wasn't just Kojima doing silly Kojima stuff. It's copy protection.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
It's to stop pirates from being able to play the game because you don't have the manual. Yeah, that's why it was in Metal Gear 2. It's because if you pirated the game, you don't get to know what the code is. In this game, though, they reference it in a way funnier way. And also probably knowing that it wasn't really going to be functional as copy protection. They probably just were doing it as a joke, not really to prevent pirates from stealing the game, I bet.
So I wonder if this bit is well known enough that a modern AAA game that has a like fully 3D realized inventory where you can look at the back of stuff could say like, oh, I forgot, it'll be on the back of the CD case, but on the back of the DVD, the Blu-ray case or whatever, it's not actually there. You do have to go into the inventory and look at the back of a CD case.
That'd be cute.
Here's something funny. The PlayStation Classic, the back of the box has one screenshot from every game on the PlayStation Classic, and the one screenshot from Metal Gear Solid is him talking to Meryl, because even though that's not the most dynamic, exciting scrandshot, what else are they going to do?
One more thing I'll say is, if you can't figure this out, because literally who would figure it out? I don't think I figured it out when I was a kid playing the game for the first time. I don't think so. I'm sure I looked it up on the internet or something. But in this whole game, every person you can call via codec serves a certain purpose. Most of them not actually useful. Master Miller is always giving you tips on like how to be a soldier, but they're much more like diegetic tips, like not video game tips, like telling Snake like make sure that I don't know. He does all kinds of stuff. If you call a lady we're about to talk about, she gives you all kinds of info about like weapons, and sometimes it's like telling you what weapon a boss uses and therefore giving you a tip on how to beat them. Campbell, your colonel, is your generic tips guy. He also never gives you any interesting like lore. It's almost always the helpline for the game. They built it into the game, and if you call him like a zillion times. I didn't do this. I'm sure I'm exaggerating, but I do recall you have to call him multiple times, and each time you call him, he gives you a more obvious hint. And I do think at some point he just straight up says it's on the back of like the jewel case for Metal Gear Solid. Like, not that literally, but they do eventually tell you. So it's cool. They include that hint in the game itself.
So Snake is like, oh, obviously I have a copy of Metal Gear Solid, so I'll look on the back and I will get her phone number and I will call her. But is there any way we can prevent the missile launch? And Baker's like, you'll need to find Hal Emmerich, who's one of my employees. And Snake is like, who's that? He says he's the leader of the Metal Gear Rex project. If there's anyone else that can stop Metal Gear, it'll be him. And Snake is like, and if that fails, he's like, you'll just have to blow it up. Emmerich will know how to destroy Metal Gear. So he asks where he is. He says that he's in the nuclear warhead storage building, which is the next level, which is where we're headed. Snake is like, but the nuclear age is over. Like, I already beat Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. We don't have to worry about this anymore. And Baker is like, no, the threat of nuclear war isn't gone. It's greater than it ever has been. And so then there's a lot of like stock footage and stuff as he goes along, and he basically says, shit sucks. Nuclear stuff is bad, and there are a bunch of nuclear materials and stuff that are unaccounted for, and therefore there's been a huge black market in nuclear materials. So there's a lot of nuclear materials and scientists that are trying to make a bomb. And yeah, I'm skimming. I don't think the rest of this is important.
No, we're fine.
Yeah, the rest of that is not important. So
they too talk about that ninja.
Yeah,
and they talk about genome soldiers.
Yes, they ask about the ninja, and Baker says that Naomi from Foxhound, aka our friend in our ear, knows all about it. And Baker asks Snake to stop Metal Gear, not to save the world, but because his company would be finished if the word got out, which is stupid. So
they also have a line about like, what would be so weird about your company? Like, they always use this phrase, currently existing technology, which is really funny. This thing is made using currently existing technology. It's like, well, of course it exists currently. How could you? What they mean is it's not weird sci-fi shit. Like, when they say that something made with currently existing technology, they're saying, I'm sure it's a weird translation of the Japanese. They're saying it's made using common, normal
materials.
Technology that you, Snake, would already be aware of. Not some crazy thing that we, the writers, or we, the characters in the game, invented, right?
Yeah.
So Snake says, doesn't Metal Gear use currently existing technology? And Baker says, Metal Gear itself does, but ... And again, me having already played the game many times, I'm trying to make sure to highlight all the points where the game is suggesting that there's some greater mystery to be solved here, right? So I'm making sure we don't miss those lines.
Yeah. But then as he says ... he bends over in pain, also has a big shouty thing as he slumps over to die. And
he says that the Pentagon bastards finally went ahead and did it. And then also that the Pentagon bastards are, quote, using you, aka Snake, for ... And then he dies.
So Snake calls Campbell and is like, "Why does everyone keep dying?" Campbell says, "I have no idea." And Snake is like, "Don't lie to me." And they say that it could be a poison of some sort, but they wouldn't be able to tell without doing an autopsy. Campbell is like, "Snake, you have to call Meryl and work together." And Snake's like, "Can I trust her?" And Campbell says, "Maybe more than you can trust me." And so Snake asks Naomi who is that ninja, and she doesn't respond. And he goes, "Was it a member of Foxhound?" And Naomi was like, "We don't have anyone like that in our unit." And
to be clear, not a spoiler, her acting is very obviously showing that she's hiding something.
Absolutely.
So he asks her to her face, "Who's this guy?" And she like, dramatic pause, and then says, "I don't know."
Because she was like a medical person in Foxhound after Snake retired. I don't think we mentioned that, but
yeah,
she knows these guys.
Yeah.
So she's like, I don't know shit about this.
Yeah. So the Campbell ends the transmission, and Snake calls Meryl.
So I want to move this along a little bit. I'm going to summarize this part's really, because these conversations are all really long and they're all good and well written, but like don't really matter. He talks with her, he hits on her, and they have a really cute, camaraderie little banter. And then they talk. She says again how he looks just like Solid Snake. Then one important thing is that Snake says, "I have no family." So Meryl's like, "Why do you look just like him?" And he's like, "I don't know." Then she gives more information about what happened with the whole terrorist attack thing. It's not actually super interesting or important. It's just thriller stuff. One thing you find out is that it's not that they took over. It's not that they were doing sneaky shit at a weapons disposal facility. It literally was not a nuclear disposal facility ever, even to begin with. It's always been run by a dummy corporation of arms tech in association with the U.S. government. So it's been the U.S. government, the DoD, is doing some sneaky shit with arms companies and hiding it and covering it up. That was not like a twist or a development. That's just literally the whole point of it. They've been making Metal Gear here with civilians, not even with the military. And then they talk a lot about how the tests work. It's all quite interesting, actually. They talk about how they would always do virtual tests. This is the first real test. This would be the final bit of data that they need. Then they discuss the fact that they died of a heart attack and how that's weird. Then Meryl tells us, very importantly, about the person who designed Metal Gear, Dr. Emmerich, and how he's still alive, and how he is in the second floor basement of a different building to the north. Snake says, second floor basement, for the second time this game. And they're forcing him to finish making Metal Gear. And that means that they're not obviously ready to launch yet, because if they were ready to launch, then they probably would have killed this guy already. So that's good. So we gotta go rescue him, or at least ask him how to destroy Metal Gear if we have to destroy it instead of doing the detonation code, right? Yeah. Next thing is they have some talking about how you got to be careful during war, and they have a little bit of a heart-to-heart. She says she always wanted to be a soldier ever since she was a little girl. She's a good character, but I am unfortunately going to skip over it. He gives her some very mentorly advice. It's actually really sweet. He's like, yeah, like, you're a rookie. I'm a vet. I'm going to give you some advice. And she kind of thanks him, I think, in a real way. And then she says that she has a level 5 card key. She's not going to give it to us. That would make the game too easy. But she is going to open the big door so that we can go north. So he's like, cool. And then we have to run around for a bit in real time, waiting for her to at some point open the door. And then she does. So then she says, Snake, I opened the door. I'm in enemy uniform. It's fine. Go on through the door. Oh, by the way, in order to get through this airlock, you're going to have to go underneath some infrared things. If you backtrack a little, you might be able to find infrared goggles, but you also might just want to use your cigarettes. Yes, Snake does have cigarettes. He smoked them. He snuck them in his butt. That's canon.
That's canon.
I thought he swallowed them, then regurgitated them.
You're right. Sorry, he swallowed them. He didn't shit them out. He regurgitated them. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the people gave him a pat down, he hated cigarettes. Is the point. You can smoke cigarettes. If you do and call people on your codec, everyone gets mad at you because cigarettes are bad for you, which is ridiculous.
I didn't know that. I just knew that it decreased your health.
Yeah, it decreases your health because cigarettes are bad for you. One of the many things that this game just makes up. It's just bad science. Cigarettes aren't bad for you. It's fine to smoke them. Trust me, I do it all the time. But if you smoke the cigarettes, the smoke from the cigarette makes the infrared lights visible, so you can crawl under them. It's very cute. So you go through that, and then next thing is, I'll do one more thing, and then I'll let you take over again, Sam. The next, because it's just, all the stuff is just, there's so much shit in this game, and a lot of it is deeply interesting, but it's also only some things are actually important when it comes to like themes and shit, right? Anyway, when you get to the next room is actually not a room, it's outside, and it's a big snowy canyon, and you get a call from someone mysterious, someone named ? And a guy goes, Snake, be careful. There are mines around here. Use a mine detector. I'm Deep Throat. And Snake goes, very humorously, Deep Throat, the informant from the Watergate scandal, which is like, Snake, he's clearly not literally that guy. And then Deep Throat is like, never mind about me being called Deep Throat. I don't care. Snake also noticed that due to the way that his transmission is being received, first transmission, he knows that Deep Throat is nearby, so he's not off somewhere else. He's somewhere on the island. And he asks, who are you? And Deep Throat says, I'm one of your fans. Yes, this is a thing from Metal Gear 2. I think it might also be from Metal Gear 1. But it's at least from Metal Gear 2. Even the phrase, like, I'm one of your fans, or whatever. So they're copying Metal Gear 2 again. You backtrack, you get a mine detector. A mine D. He doesn't say that, but I say that. And mine detector shows where the mines are. If you crawl on your belly over a mine, you pick it up and can use it as an item instead of it blowing up.
You also can just do that without the mine detector.
Right, that's true. You just don't know where you need to do that because it doesn't show up on your radar. Yeah. So you get some mines and you head north, and then what happens, Sam?
A dude in a tank shows up, and he says that this is Raven's territory, And
She
it's,
talks like this and uses broken English and references ravens and shaman magic a lot because he's a Native American. It's not good.
it's not good. But he does say that snakes don't belong in Alaska, which is a great line. So then you have to do a tank battle. And this is where I was stuck for a while because I'm stupid. Because right as the battle starts, Meryl calls you and says, use a fucking chaff grenade, you stupid idiot. But I do not read, and I tried to sneak past and run at the tank and do all of the things for a very long time.
Grenades, very important item in this game. It just like in real life, it releases a bunch of like metal shit everywhere, and it basically shuts down electrical things, like tracking or sensors. So it'll turn off surveillance cameras and other stuff. In this particular case, the tank has a number of weapons, but one of them is a giant honking, tank gun that goes boom, and it kills you instantly. If you use the chaff, then it doesn't work.
Yeah. And so when you use the chaff, some little dork pops up out of the top to shoot you with a gun. And when you do that, you throw a grenade at him, and the grenade lands up there and blows him up.
And if the tank moves too fast for you, which it moves pretty fast, you can place either C4 or claymores, which you have both of those now, and so that it runs over them and it blows up its treads, and then the tank moves very slowly. And if you don't think about that, you can call the colonel and he'll tell you that. Fun fact, if you have trouble with the boss, call the colonel or Nastasia Romanenko. The game has a hint system built in. Don't just keep throwing yourself at it and dying, Sam.
Or pay attention to the cutscene in which they tell you how to beat the boss. That's the number one tip for this game.
If you get the treads, the battle's really quite easy. But if you don't do that, it is quite hard.
Yeah, it's not even terribly hard if you throw out a chaff grenade and then just do it the other way. It's like medium hard. So Snake disables the tank and he runs off, but the camera hangs back, following Raven. And Raven calls someone on the radio and is like, "Well, I hope you're happy. He got the card." And the man on the radio is like, "Oh, we'll play with him a little longer. What did you think of him?" And Raven is like, "It was just as you said. In battle, it's as if he was possessed by a demon, much like you. I would expect no less." And so then Ocelot pops on the radio. Is like, "Dibs, though. I'm gonna kill Snake. I get dibs. You don't get a second boss fight. I do." They both get second boss fights, but
I guess Ocelot does too, if you think about it. I never thought about that. He does kind of get a second boss fight, or a loose definition of boss fight.
Yeah, and even if he didn't in this game, he definitely does in the other video game games. So when you enter the nuclear weapons building, Campbell calls you on the codec and is like, all of these boxes around here, just nukes, just armed nukes, just hanging out. Don't shoot a gun. You'll explode and die. Not
armed. They're dismantled, and if you shoot them, they won't blow up and kill you, but they will probably leak radiation, which is bad.
And Naomi says she has programmed the nanomachines she injected you with so that you won't be able to use your weapons. And that's a disturbing sentence.
Yeah, if you go into your right-hand weapon menu, you'll see that you can't select them, which is fun. Also, at this point, if you haven't already, you get introduced to Nastasia Romanenko, who's hot. I'd let her kill me. And she's your weapons expert, and she tells you all about nukes and other kinds of weapons, and it unless it's a boss battle where she's telling you how to beat the boss, it's all just like info dumping about shit that Hideo Kojima knows, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it is quite interesting. But she wins the most likely to forget she's in the game and literally never call her for the rest of the game award for this game's cast. But I would recommend giving her a call because she is quite interesting.
So you make your way through this building, and then when you get to the lower level, Deep Throat calls you and says, "Hey, this place is filled with poison gas, and the floor is electrified because OSHA doesn't operate out here. These are just offices. Like as you go through, this is just has like computers and shit. Imagine having to wear fucking gas mask and rubber shoes just to go in data entry." So you have to use my favorite weapon in the game, the Nikita missile.
This exact scenario is in Metal Gear 2.
I love the Nikita missile, but I am stupid in my love for the Nikita missile, and I forgot that there was a first-person mode that you could use to aim it really easy.
That too.
And so I just am like, the camera does not like you. The Nikita missile is like on the bottom edge of the camera. It is very hard to aim. You have to have split-second reflexes, and that's how I got through this part.
You know, I like to dunk on you as much as the next host, but you get a pass here. First of all, I forgot about the first person mode, but with or without it, the movement, the controls for this thing are very idiosyncratic. I would say, as a general tip for this game, even though this game was an early adopter of using the DualShock control 360-degree control sticks, there's a lot of times in this game where you might be better off using the D-pad.
I mean, you don't have to use the DualShock. You can play it just with the D-pad.
Exactly. It's fun to use the DualShock, and I generally do use it. But there are a number of times when being able to very cleanly hit your cardinal directions is super useful. So I would recommend in general to remember that's always an option as you play this game. And this is one great example of when that's a good idea, is using your D-pad instead to do your cornering here.
I immediately was like, oh, I wonder if I can use the first person mode while doing this. And
I got to my first try, which is unusual. So to give Sam some grace here, like even me who's played this game a zillion times did not expect to get it on my first try. I did actually, but usually it takes me a number of tries.
Yeah, it is very difficult to do.
Because Sam hasn't really said it. You have to shoot the missile through a lengthy kind of little maze, and then blow up a thing. So it's like it's you have to navigate through like around like office chairs and there's even cameras that will shoot the missile and blow it up if you let them see you for too long. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The VR missions that were bundled with the special edition of this game that came out eventually whenever it did. It's the version we had growing up, but the VR missions own, and every single one of the Nikita missions is my favorite level of video games. Shout outs to bonus content. Speaking of playing with the D-pad, this game is a stealth remake of a game that was grid based, and it is very much still grid based. And so using the D-pad, I think, is not only better in some situations, it's kind of designed to be that way, leading up until the very not grid looking dog maze leading up to Sniper Wolf. That's the only time it's not like a grid. It's kind of like off in a weird corner. But so you blow up the switch, and you can walk across the electric floor, and you open a door, and you have my favorite scene in most video games, but definitely in this game. And you come through, and it is a fucking horror movie. There is blood everywhere. There are dead bodies everywhere. The lights are all flickering and shit. And a guard comes around the corner in shambles, and he's like, it's a ghost, and he falls to the ground, and Snake investigates him and is like, it looks like they were cut by some type of blade. And it's just very cool setup for what you're about to get to. So you go through the creepy hallway, and at the very end you see a cutscene. There's some scientist dude who will be Otacon. We'll find out in just a second. He's like, oh, stealth camouflage. Who are you? Talking to the ninja, who then shows up. The ninja says, "Where's my friend?" And Hanakon's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then the ninja sees Snake, and Snake is like, "Who the fuck are you?" And goes,
"You're that ninja."
I love every time I'm like, "Oh, I just skimmed the next like 4 or 5 lines. None of these are important." I go on, and one of those lines is one of the quotable lines, and I'll say it anyways. Snake is like, "Who are you?" And the ninja says, "I'm neither enemy nor friend. I am back from a world where such words are meaningless. I've removed all obstacles. Now you and I will battle to the death." And Snake asks him a bunch of questions to figure out what's going on, but the ninja is like, nope, I'm just here to fight. That's the thing. I just want
What's
to
with
fight
these
you
guys? It's like one of my Japanese animes.
That's a very good Otacon voice.
That's a really good
Thank
Otacon.
you.
Yeah, one important thing I'm just gonna say is that he wait, does he not find out who it is till after the fight?
He doesn't find out who it is till after the fight.
I think
it's
actually was
partway
wrong
through
about
the fight.
something.
I think it's right before the final thing where you get to use weapons again and you shoot him. I think that's where he figures it out.
Yeah, one thing very important is that Snake finds out on his own. The cyborg ninja never tells Snake who he is. He says a couple of things. He says something like, "Well, we fought once before," or something like that. But I think showing a lot about Snake, he realizes on his own, "You're Gray Fox." That's why I kept joking about how Gray Fox is just some guy in the previous game, because this game very cutely totally retcons and acts as if Snake and Gray Fox were like, not like best buds, but definitely like comrades in arms who like had worked together a lot, and how Gray Fox was like a mentor to Snake in a way, and that he really looked up to him, and like there's so much more put on the relationship in this game that was definitely not there.
Yeah.
That I find cute. So,
because he says that after they fight hand to hand, and so like implies that, "Oh, you know my fighting style." And Snake is like, "No, you were killed in Zanzibar." And then as you kick his ass some more, he gets really freaky and basically is exploding, and he asks you to kill him. So you take out your gun and do it.
But then
it doesn't actually kill him.
Die.
It makes him freak the fuck out again. He like bangs his head on the floor. He freaks the fuck out again. Even says, "I'm losing myself," and then he does another acrobatic pirouette and yeets out.
Yep.
He says one of the things he says is the medicine, which is
the medicine.
Yeah. So Snake calls Campbell and is like, "That was definitely Gray Fox." And Campbell is like, "No, he died at Zanzibar." And Naomi's like, "He should have died, but he didn't." And she says,
I'm going to simplify this here. Basically, instead of letting him die, they took him and did a bunch of fucked up experiments on him.
Yeah.
But then Dr. Clark, Naomi's predecessor, was in charge. And then 2 years ago, there was an explosion in the lab, a mysterious explosion, and it killed Dr. Clark. And Gray Fox hasn't been seen since. They talk more about how fucked up it is, and the modern Gene soldiers. They don't explain this outside the briefing, but all the soldiers in this place that we're in have had gene therapy done on them to make them more incredible soldiers, which is very funny given how far they can see. And then they talk, and Snake says he doesn't think that the ninja knows who he is. And then Snake says he thinks that they're going to meet again. Naomi, weirdly seeming very concerned, she says, "So you'll fight again until you kill him?" And Snake says that he thinks that that's probably what he wants. So again, Naomi, despite revealing information to us now that she did in fact know who this guy was, he's some guy that the guy who came before her did a bunch of experiments on, she's still hiding something. Also, you forgot to tell the very important fact about Otacon, which is the first thing we see him do before he hides in the locker is piss himself.
Yep.
A lot.
Yeah.
I actually need to go. I know we have one more scene, but I have to go. I'm sorry. Man, this game's got a lot of cutscenes.
So
I want to share.
We'll just pick up from here. Otacon definitely tells us the next sort of stuff, so we can pause here.
Oh, you mean we can just be done now?
Yeah, we can just be done now.
I was just gonna eat. Okay, then let's switch to Mimbombs, and I'll share mine, and then I'll go.
Yeah, we just have been talking for 2 hours now, so we should end. Definitely did not get as far as we said in the intro, but
I felt like this would be this game would be dense, and guess what?
Yeah, I mean, I've played the game, but I'm just surprised.
So, Maddie, what are your memorable moments?
Just a few real simple ones. My girlfriend rightly noted that this game does intro credits while you're playing. It's very cool. And in the intro, when Liquid Snake goes up the elevator, you then have to wait in real time for the elevator to come down, which is a clever trick mechanically. Because you can't just use your stealth to get to the goal immediately. You have to get to the goal, but also wait for it to show up, which is actually a little harder. Like, what if you get to the goal, but then while you're waiting around, a guard actually sees you? Especially on hard skill levels. So I always thought it was just a clever little mechanical thing. But no, the fact that you have to wait for the elevator to come back down is so the credits can finish rolling. Very clever. Another thing I'll share, I've got a million things I could say here, but one more thing just that I find really good is that, really stupid, is that when you first, this happens multiple times, but the first, or at least first time I noticed, is when you meet Mei Ling, and Snake goes, I didn't think of whatever would be so cute. Which implies that he can see her?
Yeah.
I did make a joke, well, maybe he just has a cute voice, but this is not the only time in the game that characters imply that while talking on codec, they can see each other. And what's funny is you don't even necessarily think about it, because we, the player, can see both of them. The codec screen has a picture of one guy on the left, a picture of the other guy on the right, and the dialogue's like, we're like, yeah, she is cute. But, so it because of the game's presentation, you don't think of it, but then you're like, wait a second. We're seeing the two of them on screen with their faces, but diegetically, he's crouching and doing like a little kneel and putting his finger to his ear and having a voice in his head. How the fuck? And the game does not stop doing this. And
they directly stimulate the small bones of his eyes so that he can see them.
It's so fucking stupid, and it's so fucking funny. And like most, but not all, dumb things in this game, I absolutely think that it's an intentional joke. Like, again, there's a few things in this game that are just stupid, and I think they probably just didn't think about it. But there's a lot of things where I'm like, I think it's one of those things where it's like this. It was like they wrote it. At some point, someone probably realized that's stupid, and then they had a talk and decided, no, we're still doing it because we think it's funny. Like, I think that's probably how this went. And so many of these codec conversations involve characters acting in a way that they would only act if you were like in a room talking with somebody, and not in the way that you would act if you were on the phone with somebody.
Like when you call Meryl, she has her mask on, and you're like, you're Campbell's niece, aren't you? So she takes her mask off to be like, yeah.
That's another example. There's so many examples, and it doesn't stop making me just tickling me pink. This game, people talk about the MGS series later being way more like postmodern or whatever, which people don't usually know what postmodern means when they say postmodern, but whatever. Metal Gear is postmodern, but not what people think that means. But this is an early example of it's like it's not that it breaks the fourth wall, it's that it has a unique sense of where is the gap between the quote unquote diegetic narrative and the presentation and the player's experience.
Mhm.
And it is a fluid but also intentionally goofy and off-kilter relationship. Like any other game would have a tooltip showing up that says that you can press the select button to use your codec, or a tooltip popping up that says press X to crouch and crawl under a thing. But only in Metal Gear Solid would a guy call you on the phone and tell you in a voice-acted conversation that has a conversation about actual important plot stuff, and then say, by the way, use the select button to use your codec. Like, it seems obvious today, but it really does generate a feeling that is just so strange, and yet doesn't, and yet you immediately just fall into it and are like, yeah, this is normal to me. It's fine. Maybe it's that all art is a conversation between artist and experiencer. Like, you know, art is fake. These characters aren't real. So the fact that they're just not even hiding it, it's like, no, this game is a fictional work of art. It's not about what happens to the characters. It's about Hideo Kojima and the other artists expressing things to you. So why pretend like that's not what's happening? Let's just express it to you directly whenever we feel like it.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts because it does super nutty things like that don't trigger your suspension of disbelief meter at all.
Exactly. It creates a world where that just feels normal and natural.
Yeah. Because, like, I was playing, I think it was Breath of Fire 4. I don't remember. It was one of the games I did earlier. A character was like, oh, you can just press select to do blah, blah, blah. But, like, that one felt like a video game thing. This one is it's just as important as here's what Metal Gear is, and also you can press triangle to go into first person mode. And it's cool.
I don't know how they finesse it. They just do. Final thing I'll say before I go, and again I could sue a million mid-moms, but I want to say, I think I mentioned this in a previous pod, and I'm glad to have been proven, at least to myself, I'm glad that I still believe what I said before, which is that people talk about Snake's voice acting by David Hayter being so iconic, and Revolver Ocelot, and Liquid Snake, and all that, but I really do think the MVP voice performance in this game is the Colonel.
Yes.
The Colonel's fantastic. It's really hard to do an engaging and memorable performance when your guy is just your boss who tells you what to do and explains the plot to you. Like, that is inherently not the most exciting role, right? But they have a guy who, it's almost like he's embodying the idea of authority, right? And it's really, really, really good. On that note of authority, wow, Kojima is way more just flagrantly and obnoxiously anarchist in this game. I thought it didn't show up until later, but it shows up right in the first game. That's cool. I like how the guy's very consistent. Okay, I'm going to go now. And for next time, I don't think we have any idea where we're going to go. It's wild how this game that's like literally 8 hours long is going to take us like 3 or 4 episodes to get through. This is supposed to be a short cast. We're stupid. Old
Game Plus did it in 2 episodes. I was like, well, we're a little more wordy than them, and we're talking about the plot in more detail, so we'll do 3.
I mean, there's a lot of things that you said because you didn't do notes that weren't really necessary, and I'm not upset with you or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how it is. I get it. Like, we could have done it better, but there's a lot of shit in the game, man.
A lot of shit in the game.
And a lot of it's medically important. Anyway, I'm going to go now. It's lovely to be joining you all for this. And I'm going to go have a date. So
awesome.
Goodbye.
Enjoy it.
See you later.
All right. Let's just wrap up.
Yeah. I don't have any memorable moments that we haven't talked about or that don't pay off until next time. So, Yeah. If you like what you heard today, you can check us out on the web at www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations will go to helping us keep the lights on around here, and it unlocks a lot of cool bonus content like this one. So if you like us covering games that aren't just big sweeping RPGs, then that's how you can get more of those. We now have a bunch of named tiers for your monthly donations. We have the Gadabout tier, which is everyone who pays $1 or more a month. This will get you access to our Book Club no Kaseki episodes a month before everyone else, and it lets you vote on our polls whenever they go live. The Warrior tier is for everyone who pays $5 or more a month, and that also gets their name shouted out at the end of every episode, just like this. Shouts to Cerebral Wind, Floris, Kaldron, Freddie Rodriguez, Aaron524, Fimk, Jfro Prime, and Doho. And then finally, we have the Luminary tier, which is for everyone who loves us so much that they pay us $20 or more a month. And they also get a 1-sentence shout out to make me say whatever they want. Shout out to L. Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, which is an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout outs to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, a game review website by people like us for people like us. And also shout outs to Carr, who is a dentist, so he's not shouting out his Twitch stream, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
And I'm like you. I have no name.
Toodaloo, folks.